everybody, Sean from Movie Assault here, and it's time once again for another video. This time around, it is episode 5 of the Halloween 15 for 2025. This time around, I wanted to talk about The Boogeyman from 2023. This is an adaptation of a Stephen King short story. I don't know how faithful it is to that short story. I doubt that it is too faithful because aside from a little blurb up here, if you go onto the IMDb page for the film, they don't even mention Stephen King as giving him a writing credit. So I'm not so sure that it's too much. It's probably more inspired by than anything else. And the Boogeyman isn't exactly a super original idea. So this is about basically a monster that lives in the closet. This was directed by Rob Savage, who is responsible for some movies that I have not seen, Dash Cam and Host. It was written by Scott Beck, Brian Woods, and Mark Heyman. And like I said, it was based on the short story by Stephen King. Has a great cast. Sophie Thatcher from Companion is in it. She plays Sadie. Chris Messina plays Will. Vivian Lyra Blair plays Sawyer. David Dastmalchian plays an extended cameo, basically, plays Lester Billings. Marion Ireland is in it as Rita, and Madison Who is in it as Bethany. In my review that I just did of Oculus, I was talking about how a lot of modern horror movies depend on jump scares to create sort of that scary feeling. And if you're looking for a movie that does exactly that, this is one of those movies. It's dependent mostly on jump scares to create its scary moments. It does have some great moments in it that are not dependent on jump scares, and they do have some interesting like lighting and moods and whatnot. But it's heavy on the jump scares. So if you're not a jump scare person, this is probably not going to be the film for you. But it's not a horrible movie, I will give it that. The plot revolves around two sisters, Sadie and Sawyer, played by Sophie Thatcher and Vivian Lyra Blair. Their mother's killed in a car accident. They're dealing with their grief on their own. Their father, Will, is a therapist, but yet he doesn't want to talk to the daughters about their feelings. He prefers to ship them off to another therapist. And he deals with his grief on his own in kind of his own way. And he's still seeing patients, and a patient comes in off the street without an appointment, played by David Dastmalchian. And he confesses to Will that he is not responsible for the death of his 3 children, even though he's being blamed for it. But what is actually responsible is this sort of monster in a closet, the monster that comes when you don't pay attention to your children. Well, Will is a little unnerved by this, goes to call the police. Lester goes and commits suicide in the bathroom, and all of a sudden, this monster in a closet begins to terrorize Sadie and Sawyer. And that's all I'll say about the plot. I really enjoyed this movie up until the final reel. It kind of comes apart at the seams towards the end. I wish it's one of those films that kind of depends on CGI a little bit too much. The jump scare's fine. I'm not a big fan of jump scare films, but this is one of those sort of roller coaster ride movies that you kind of figure out what it's doing, and you kind of just go along for the ride. And it's good for what it is, but I just couldn't stay with it through the final reel. I just kind of gave up on it, but it's still pretty good. The cast, though, is what really kept it together for me. Sophie Thatcher, who is great in so many movies lately, specifically Companion, which I saw earlier this year and thought was fantastic. She's really great in that. But she's good here. She's nowhere near as good as she was in Companion, but she's good. But David Dastmalchian is fantastic, and what amounts to an extended cameo. He really makes the most of his limited screen time, and he's worth it just to see him. It's worth it just to see him. Really, this is felt like a series of ideas and cool, scary moments that is strung together with kind of the tropiest of stories. I mean, it's the Boogeyman. Um, you know, when you were a kid, you were scared of something under your bed or living in your closet. So that's not the most original idea. But at least those moments that are strung together by this lesser story, they're worth seeing. So I can't dismiss this movie as being bad, but I can't recommend this movie as being, oh, you got to see it. So I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. It's worth your time, but it's not a must see. So check out The Boogeyman if you have nothing else better to do this spooky season. 6 out of 10 for me. So there you go. Boogeyman. And as always, I thank you for your attention span for making it this far into the video. And next up, it will be episode 6 of the Halloween 15 for 2025, and it'll be Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I'll explain that in the next video. Thanks for watching. Take it easy.